Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Supernatural Files. While we dive into the unexplained and the supernatural world itself, what we are going to be talking about today is a creature that is severely misunderstood, and that creature is a revenant. For you that don't know, a revenant is a corpse-like ghost or a zombie creature from folklore that is said to come back to life to exact its revenge on the living or simply terrorizing people. In the original medieval tales, the Revenant often returned from the graves to cause trouble among the living and could spread disease and misery. However, in later adaptations, the Revenants would develop a more purposeful role and would often return from their graves and exact their revenge, and often would return from their graves in order to avenge themselves or others, either as an angry spirit or as a literal walking corpse. This is where we got the stories of the zombies from. The Revenants have become a popular part of culture since their creation, and some notable examples in fiction would be The Crow and Spawn. They differ from zombies from the fact they still have their human-like intelligence and often return their slumber after exacting their revenge. However, some may be stuck in everlasting limbo. The word revenant derives from the French meaning of revenir, or simply to return. A revenant is one who has returned from the dead. They are considered the origins of pop culture icons such as the vampire and Frankenstein's monster, who was the inspiration of zombies. They could take on both spiritual and physical form, and form they could be anywhere from a freshly killed corpse to a pile of bones. Some would attack and drink the blood of their victims. The term revenant has been used interchangeably with the ghost word. While some believe that the vampire originated in Eastern Europe and the revenants derived from Western Europe folk tales, most can agree that the word revenant is a generic term for the undead. Now let's get into the backstory and what people have been researching about the revenants. Augustin Calmet conducted extensive research on this topic in the book called Traits sur les apparitions des esprits et sur les vampires en les revenants de Hongrie. In 1751, he relates the rumors of men at the time. Calmet compares the ideas of the Greek and Egyptian ancients and notes an old belief that magic could not only cause death, but also evoke the souls of the deceased as well. Calmet ascribed revenants to sorcerers who sucked the blood of victims and compared instances of revenants mentioned to the 12th century in England and Denmark as similar to those of Hungary. But in no history do we read anything so usual or so pronounced as what is related to us as vampires of Poland, Hungary, and Moravia. A possible precursor to revenant appears in Norse mythology called the Dragu, or a parking, literally one who walks after death. Stories involving the Dragu often involve confrontations with the creature. The Dragu resists intruders to its burial grounds and is immune to modern weapons, which renders the destruction of the body a dangerous affair to be undertaken by individual heroes. In the folklore and ghost stories of Eastern Scandinavia, dead child beings, or described as revenants, animated by restless spirits, could be laid to rest by performing a baptism or other religious rites. Reference to the revenant-like beings in the Caribbean lore are often referred to as the Sokonut or Sokoriant. Now, let's get into the stories. There are 3 stories we're going to touch on today. The first story is by William of Newburgh. Belief that the souls could return was very common in the 12th century. William of Newbury recounts this. He says that the Revenants were a warning to posterity, and so common, he said, were I to write down all the instances of this kind which I have ascertained to have befallen in our times, the undertaking would be beyond measure laborious and troublesome. According to William, it would not be easy to believe that the corpse of the dead should sally, I know not by what agency, from the graves, and should wander about to that terror or destruction to the living, and again return to the tomb, which of its own accord spontaneously opened to receive them. Did not frequent examples occurring in our own times suffice to establish that this fact to the truth of which there is abundant testimony. One story involves a man of evil conduct, absconding from justice, who fled from York and made the ill-fated choice to get married. Becoming jealous of his wife, he hid in the rafters in the bedroom and caught his wife in the act of infidelity with a local young man. But then he accidentally fell and mortally injuring himself, and a few days later he ended up dead. Now let's get into the next person, the Abbot of Burton. The English Abbot of Burton recalls 2 English men, 2 runaway peasants from about 1090 who died suddenly of unknown causes and were buried, but the same day as which they were interred, they appeared in the evening while the sun was still up, carrying on their shoulders a wooden coffin in which they had been buried. The whole following night they walked through the paths of the village, now in the likeness of dogs or bears or other animals. They spoke to the other peasants, banging on the walls of their homes and shouting, "Move quickly! Move! Get going! Come!" The villagers became sick and started dying, but the bodies of the revenants were exhumed, their heads cut off, and their hearts removed, which ended the spread of the sickness. The last person we're going to talk about is Walter Map. The chronicler Walter Map, a Welshman writing during the 12th century, tells of a wicked man in Hereford who was revived from the dead and wandered the streets of his village at night, calling out the names of those who would die of sickness within 3 days. The response by the bishop, Guildford Folliot, was to dig up the body and cut the head off with the spade, sprinkle it with holy water, and re-enter it. So next time you think that you see a person that you just recently saw pass away, just think maybe they could be a revenant in disguise. Thank you all for joining me. Be sure, if you like this video, hit the red subscribe button down below. Hit it with the thumbs up. Click the notification bell to always on. And leave a comment down below. Like always, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Supernatural Files. While we dive into the unexplained and the supernatural realm itself. While today we are going to exploring the wonderful world of angels. Strap in for yourself while we take you on this adventure of the angels. Now let's get into the etymology of it. The word angel comes from translation of the Bible. Let's get into the purpose of the angels themselves. During troubling times, there are countless stories of the angels descending from heaven, protecting or guiding humans. The origin of angels. There is a hierarchy to the angels itself, and we're going to explore the first one is the seraphim. That is the name that is given to the highest order of angel. Now let's get into the cherubim. They are the second highest order. The next one are the throne. The next layer is the